We just wanted something that was more dynamic, more alive.
Riven became much larger than what we could have imagined.
What is the price of a memory? Think back, if you can, to Riven. The sun was warm, the water was impossibly blue, and the air hummed with the sound of strange creatures and ancient, forgotten machinery. It felt less like loading a game and more like discovering a new world. For many of us, Riven wasn't just a game, it was an event, a masterpiece. But is that what it actually was? Or is that just a story we've told ourselves for the last 28 years? Today, we're on a mission. We're going to boot up the original 1997 PC version of Riven, tear down the veil of nostalgia, and answer the question, does Cyan's legendary sequel to Myst truly hold up in 2025? Or has time been less than kind to this beloved classic? You might be surprised at what we find when we compare the game we remember to the stark reality of playing it today. So let's rewind. To understand Riven's impact, you have to understand the context. It was October 1997. Myst had already shattered records, becoming the best-selling PC game of all time, a title it would hold for nearly a decade. The hype for its sequel was palpable. This was still the era before the internet dominated our lives. Our hype came from gaming magazines, from word-of-mouth whispers from schoolmates, and in office break rooms. The sense of discovery was real because you couldn't just Google it, you had to go figure it out. And when you finally got your hands on that massive 5 CD-ROM box set, it delivered. Riven was a technological and artistic marvel. The development, led by the Miller brothers and co-director Richard Van de Vende from Disney and ILM, spanned over 4 years and cost between $5 and $10 million, more than 10 times the budget of Myst, and boy, did it make a difference.
The best feeling of all comes at the very end when you finally get to see how all those things that you designed, all the complexity that you put into this environment and just hoped it would work, it comes together and it works.
Publications like Salon literally proclaimed that Riven approaches the level of art. The graphics were unanimously praised as the best anyone had ever seen in an adventure game. But it wasn't just about raw fidelity. The artists took a 3-day trip to Santa Fe to photograph textures, real wood, adobe, sand, to create a world that felt gritty, weathered, and utterly real. Not like the smooth plastic common in CGI at the time. They modeled even the smallest screws individually. This world was built with almost a Tolkien-esque level of detail.
Riven became a place to us as we were designing it. Richard and Robin were picturing themselves there. It was part of what we were doing.
Our attempt was to make elements in the Riven world look old and used and broken in. Because you see a lot of computer-generated art that looks plasticky or new or somehow strange. It doesn't look real.
We're used to weathered things. That implies reality. The trip to Santa Fe came out of our need for textures. It's as simple as that. So we got pictures of wood and doors and sand and stucco.
We wanted to take a lot of pictures of, a lot of nice adobes and woods down there. Very old, kind of weathered wood doors and things like that. So we could map them onto our geometry. The huts, the village huts, those are all Santa Fe textures. Even the village doors, all from Santa Fe.
And the sound? Robin Miller's soundtrack, later released by Virgin Records, was a masterpiece of ambient world building. He created distinct motifs for Atris, Catherine, and the villain, Gen. Gen's theme in particular is a work of subtle genius. You hear fragments of his melody throughout the entire game, a constant, subtle reminder of his control over the decaying age, long before you ever meet him. This wasn't just a game, it was an immersive sim before the term even existed. It was a place you visited. That was its original, powerful allure. But that was then. Let's fast forward to a modern playthrough. I fired up the original CD version on the Windows 11 machine, and folks, the magic does not translate immediately. The first challenge is getting the thing to run. We're talking about resolution limitations locked at 640 by 480. On a 4K monitor, it's a postage stamp. So you stretch it, and the aspect ratio goes all wrong, making everything look squat and distorted. Then there's the compatibility headaches, crashes, glitches, and the infamous pixel hunting, where your cursor has to hit an exact single pixel spot to interact with something. The official remake version available on digital storefronts today solves some of these issues, but it's still the core aged experience. And then there's the gameplay itself. The point-and-click interface, revolutionary for its time, now feels clunky. Movement is a series of disjointed slides from one pre-rendered still image to the next. You click an arrow to turn, wait for the disc to spin, and load the new image, and then proceed. The famous zip mode helps, but it highlights how much of the game is waiting. This deliberate pace was part of the atmosphere in 1997, but in 2025, it feels a bit like molasses. And the puzzles, oh the puzzles. Riven is infamous for them. Where Myst often felt like a series of isolated puzzle boxes on different ages, Riven's puzzles are the world. The entire game is one gigantic, interconnected meta-puzzle. There's no hand-holding, no quest log. You need to decipher an entire alien numbering system based on animal symbols. You need to understand the geography of 5 islands and how they relate to each other. You need to pay attention to everything. For some, this is the pinnacle of game design. A world that doesn't cater to you, but demands that you understand it. For a modern player accustomed to waypoints and objective markers, it might not make any sense and lead only to frustration. Is it brilliant, impenetrable design, or just a bad experience, especially for those new to the series? The line is razor thin. So, what's the consensus today? If we take off the rose-tinted glasses and look at community perception, it's fascinatingly divided. The hardcore fans, the ones who were there when it was first released, still revere it. They talk about the genius of the animal number system, the awe of finally understanding the marble puzzle, the sheer terror of being captured by Gen. For them, the challenge was part of the charm, the price of admission for a truly unparalleled experience. But for the new player in 2025, the reaction is more mixed. I've read countless forum threads and watched modern playthroughs. The most common sentiment is respect, but not necessarily enjoyment. They appreciate its historical significance, its ambition, its sound, and art direction. But they frequently cite the sluggish pacing, the unforgiving logic, and the constant, repetitive backtracking across the 5 islands as major barriers to fun. One modern reviewer put it perfectly. Playing Riven today is like visiting a beautiful ancient cathedral. You can admire the architecture and the history, but you wouldn't necessarily want to live there. The difficulty curve isn't a smooth ramp. It's a sheer cliff face that requires a leap of faith. But it's not all rough edges. When we look at Riven through a modern lens, certain elements don't just hold up, they shine brighter than many contemporary games. The world building is still top tier. The culture of the Rivenese people, oppressed by the godlike Gen, is told entirely through environmental storytelling. The crude rebel symbols of the Moiety scratched into the walls, the stark contrast between Gen's pristine gold inlaid temples and the decaying villages of the natives. You're not told a story, you uncover it. This is the technique many modern games are still trying to master. The ambient sound design is timeless. The chirping of insects, the lapping of water against wooden pylons, the deep, groaning shift of massive geological plates. It all combines to create an audio landscape that is still deeply immersive and unsettlingly real.
One strange thing about making a world like this is that there's no sound to it until you're done.
We had made these animations basically with a deaf ear. We didn't know what these animations were going to sound like. We had ideas for what they were going to sound like, but when the sound is put into them, it really makes them real. I mean, it makes them come alive for us.
And the overarching narrative, a rescue mission set in a dying world ruled by a mad, narcissistic tyrant, is classic and compelling sci-fi. The live-action performances, while dated, have a certain charm, and the multiple endings, especially the canonical one where you trap Gen in a prison book and help Catherine evacuate the Rivenese people, remains incredibly satisfying. On the critical side, the elements that show their age are hard to ignore. The interface is undeniably clunky. The lack of modern accessibility features, no scalable text, no difficulty settings, just feels archaic. The constant need to swap between the 5 CDs on the original version was a literal physical interruption to the immersion. And that repetitive backtracking we mentioned is a real turnoff that will test your patience. So where does that leave us? What is Riven's enduring legacy? It's complicated. Its historical significance is undeniable. It was the best-selling PC game of 1997, moving over 1.5 million copies in its first year and eventually over 4.5 million in total. That alone is a stunning accomplishment. It won awards for its graphics and pushed the entire industry forward in terms of storytelling and immersion. It proved that games could be contemplative, artistic, and deeply intellectual. But is it a masterpiece that stands the test of time? I think the answer is yes, but with a glaring asterisk. Riven is a museum piece. You can't deny its craft, its influence, and its ambition. To truly appreciate it, you must meet it on its own terms. You have to accept its pace, its obscurity, and its technical limitations as part of the package. For the nostalgic gamer, revisiting Riven from 1997 is a powerful trip down memory lane, but you may find the path rougher than you remember. For the curious new player, it's a fascinating, often frustrating, archaeological dig into gaming's past. Its essence, the awe, the mystery, the satisfaction of solving a world absolutely still resonates. But you have to be willing to overlook its very rough edges. It's not a game for everyone, but for those it is for, it remains an unforgettable journey. Perhaps it's the ultimate testament that we're still talking about it, debating it, and yes, even remaking it nearly 3 decades later. The recent 2024 full 3D remake with VR is proof that the core of Riven, its world, its puzzles, its soul, is timeless. It just needed a new shell.
Thank God you've returned. I need your help.
So was it really that good? For its time, unquestionably. For right now, it's a masterpiece that requires a bit of work to love, and maybe that's exactly how it should be. Thanks for watching. What are your memories of Riven? Do you think it holds up, or is it best left in the past? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see us tackle another classic, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Make a mistake.
The island has been steadily decaying for years.